right, brothers and sisters, we are back on WVON 1690, the talk of Chicago, straightwords.com. Go to our website. You can check out some of our premium content from previous shows, and we would love for you to chime in and support us in 2025. Go to straightwords.com, and you see all the ways that you can donate to the program, brothers and sisters. We're moving up on 2 years, and I'm telling you, you're going to need to hear these voices come through this radio in 2025. Brother Naba'a Richard Muhammad, the editor-in-chief of the Great Final Call newspaper, contributing editor, former editor of the Final Call newspaper, Brother James G. Muhammad. I'm Brother BJ, 773-591-1690. You want to hold your place because, brothers and sisters, we got a powerful guest we've been waiting to talk to that's coming on the radio, Brother Naba'a.
Yes, sir, brother. Yes, sir, Brother BJ. I'm going to say something real quick because I've been waiting to get to this brother now. Come on now.
I know that.
Come on. I just want to say, brothers and sisters, we are working to be worthy of your support. We don't take it for granted.
Right.
So if you like the content, if you like what you hear, if it brings you some value, support that which brings you value. That's all we're saying.
Right.
And we're honored to serve you. We want you to understand that, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is a struggle, but, you heard the term the beautiful struggle. It's a beautiful struggle, but it ain't painless and it ain't free.
Right. It ain't free.
But we are willing to endure the pain so that you maybe don't have to. Let's bring in the great, the inimitable, the powerful, the handsome. The doctor's in the house, baby. Dr. Ricky L. Jones, are you on the line, sir?
My brothers.
Brother, man.
Hey, you need to travel with me, brother. If you're gonna say I'm inimitable and most of all handsome, I need that love in my life. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, he needs to introduce you.
Just let me know when, my brother. We'll be there, man.
No doubt,
brother. Hotep, I just got to say to you, and I'm not going to say much because we want you to get all of the time. So, brothers and sisters, look, man, like Funkadelic used to say in Parliament, if you got any rheumatoid, if you got any arthritis, if you got any pain in your brain, just lay your hands on the radio, and let the vibes flow. Not only move.
What you know about that? What you know about that?
Stop now. Stop now with something, dog. Stop. This is the great, seriously, this is the great Dr. Ricky L. Jones from the University of Louisville. We're getting right into this, Doc. I ain't playing. Look. Last year, and we're so honored to have you. Last year, and right after the election, there was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth. But your view was a little different. And if you could talk about, because you talked about us being hope addicts, can you talk a little bit about that? And how do you see things now that we've been into this thing, at least for a few days?
Yeah. Well, first of all, brothers, assalamu alaikum. I appreciate
alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
And I appreciate y'all, brothers, for having me on. I'm an Atlanta boy. I got friends from the great city of Chicago. I'm a stranger in a strange land here, sojourning in the wasteland of Kentucky and Louisville. And so it's good to hear friendly voices. Also, I'm appreciative that you allowed me onto your show. I've been banned from a number of the iHeart shows here in Louisville, so I hope y'all don't get canceled for having me on.
They ain't canceled us now. We ain't gonna get canceled.
We pay our own way around here. We pay out, so the door's always open to you around here.
I appreciate it, and I might have to use it because one thing that I do love and need is black love. And
right.
Yes, sir.
So to be in that warm embrace is always great. It's always great. It's always a blessing. So thank you, brothers. Much love to you. You've been a blessing to me for bringing me on. Now, how do I feel about the election now that I've had a chance to reflect? I feel the same way that I felt after it happened, and I feel the same way that I felt before it happened, and it was a little bit shocking for some folks. You know, I didn't talk about it a lot before it happened because it's some folks, you know, man, I tell you, brother, I really wasn't trying to go to war with some brothers and sisters from Howard, man. I didn't want that smoke. My daughter's mother is an AKA. I wasn't trying to have that smoke with the AKAs. I just wasn't trying to do all of that. But what I love more than any individual is black people.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
always concerned about the fortunes of black people. And what I have seen with my own eyes and through my own studies, because what people don't understand, and the reason I don't really fit in with a lot of folks in my profession, you know, I'm a kid from the housing projects of Atlanta. My mother had me when she was 15 years old. I didn't meet my father till I was 35. I was raised by my grandmother, who came from rural Georgia, born in 1933, couldn't read. She never had the opportunity to go to school. So I was doggishly tied to any political party because we think they have our best interests at heart when they do not. The only thing that I have been saying to people is ask questions. We talked about Parliament and Funkadelic. Another thing, they said think. It's not illegal yet.
Yeah.
It ain't illegal yet. And so my belief was, when you really look at, one, the direction that the Democratic Party has been moving for quite some time, you cannot deny that has been a party that has never had the best interests of black folk in mind. It simply visited us like horrors in the night every 2, 4, 6 years to get our votes, and then we're not really included in their politics. The Democrats are bad. The Republicans are worse. And so if we think that our fortunes lie in completely dedicating our energies to American political parties as they stand right now, then we're fools. And if we study and look at individuals, quite honestly, and I know he y'all's homeboy, Brother Barack Obama, much love to him, but if you study his record and you study the record of Kamala Harris, you do not find a longitudinal, consistent commitment to black people in those records. So then the question for me is, what do we do about that? My thought is to understand what these people are, what these parties are, and then try to plot a way out of the mess that we're in because of the white supremacist country we live in on our own. That's where the conversation has to start for me.
Right.
So people who were so ecstatic about Sister Running, look, again, no hatred towards that sister. I'm not an apolitical man. I voted for the sister, but I knew that she, even if she won, that was not where our salvation would lie. And it would, in effect, numb us, once again, make us think that everything is all right. Make black people feel like, oh, we got hope in these standard systems. And as I said before, we're hope addicts, and we got to get off that drug.
You know, Dr. Jones, we like Brother Barack, but we ain't groupies. Because I don't want to get off topic, but I'm going to make this observation. What I noticed, first of all, Michael Eric Dyson said something that was absolutely true. And he said Barack Obama is Pharaoh. He's not Moses. That was good. The other thing is I can't remember one speech where Mr. Obama challenged America to be better, challenged white folks to be better, but I remember plenty of times he challenged black folks to be better.
Right.
Going to Morehouse where you got talking about responsibility, and you got generations of black men from families that have gone to Morehouse, then going to the NAACP and telling people, take off your bedroom shoes and put on your Martins heels. Brother, are you serious? Then the Congressional Black Caucus was so scared of black folks getting angry, they didn't press him on nothing. And if I'm not mistaken, he never even met with them, at least not in his first term. So when you talk about how do you see, as we try to get something out of this political system, how do you see that working? Is third parties part of that, or what do you think?
You know, brother, first, let me address your first point when you talk about the things of Brother Barack. Then people think because we offer some type of constructive critique or criticism of Brother Barack that, you know, we haters or we dislike him or we're not rooting for him, we don't love him. No, I think most of us, especially those of us, you know, who are conscious black men, we love the brother. We love the brother, but we do not love some of the things that he did. When you spoke of that speech that he gave at Morehouse, I'm a Morehouse man.
Oh, my God.
That. You know, I remember that. And a lot of us were pissed about it. But before people were pissed about it, I asked folks, why are you surprised? Because in 2008, I wrote a book about the brother before he was even elected called What's Wrong with Obama Mania? And I coined that term, Obama Mania, this love, right, this fanaticism about Barack Obama simply because he's Barack Obama and feeling that anybody who asked questions was somehow out of order. That was a problem for me because there were so many black men and women that had loved black people and fought for black people before we ever heard about Barack Obama in 1994. No, I'm sorry, in 2004, right? Nobody outside of Chicago had even heard of Obama before that Democratic convention in 2004. And so people who felt like we should abandon all of the black men and black people simply because we had a black man who had the opportunity to become president or even became president, but still did not have an agenda and did not have an ideology that spoke to the suffering of our people head on. And don't tell me he can't speak about black people because he's black. Well, if the black man can't speak about black people because he's black, then give me the white boy. You know?
Yes.
I mean, if that's the way you're approaching things. So that's, I think, incredibly problematic. But I'm going to say something as a political scientist that a lot of people will find troubling. I don't think that black people's fortunes, there are positive fortunes, lie completely in traditional American politics.
Right.
I don't believe that is a system that was set up for us. I don't believe that it's a system where we really have power, even to this day. Many of the brothers and sisters who have been able to move up in that system have been so tainted by it that they're unrecognizable if they ever were conscious and wedded to our causes. And so I don't really think that that's where our future lies. I'm not saying that we should disconnect from politics completely. I'm saying that is something that certainly we can use as a tool, but it's a cog in the machine, not the machine. I really believe that first our future lies in some serious conversations about reorienting ourselves and dealing with the reality of what America really is. And if we cannot have conversations about the history and the contemporary reality and pervasiveness of white supremacy and the effects of white supremacy, then we spin in the wind. And if we're not brave enough to do that, and if we're not brave enough to embrace and support the black men and women who have been forcing that conversation for decades, right, then I think we're lost. So we got to figure out ways to build on our own, you know, and it's important that we do that, you know, for a very, very long time. And this is an admission of somewhere I went wrong. For a very, very long time as a young man, I was educated and socialized to believe that the best path forward for us was integration. I firmly believe. I was like, you know, everything gonna be all right. We come together. You know, we can make this happen. Racial equality has yet to be achieved, but it can be achieved through the mechanism of integration. I no longer believe that. You know, I've been disabused of that notion. And there's always been an ideological struggle in America, especially in Black America, between integration and different forms of nationalism. And my belief is we got to come up with a modern brand of nationalism where we lift ourselves up, build our own institutions as much as we can, because white America is shown that it's not going to treat us right unless it's forced to do so.
Absolutely.
And I mean that's a sad admission, right? But I think it's an honest admission.
Yeah, Dr. Jones. Hey, Brother Naba'a, Dr. Jones, can you just talk a little bit more about that aspect of, integration was not probably the best option for us at a certain time, and it's like when you say, just talk a little about what the other option might be and how that might look. How do we go about it, if you can?
Well, again, you go back to the 19th century, and that debate has always raged from Frederick Douglass to Martin Delany to Henry McNeil Turner, to Du Bois, to William Monroe Trotter, to so many Black thinkers, both male and female, like what is our best path forward? The one thought was that American ideals were real. And this is where we have to start, I think. This whole discussion about what America really is. A country that professes that it believes in freedom, but a good percentage of its founding fathers owned slaves. Freedom, liberty, justice for all. You talk about justice for all, but it's the same country that to this day mistreats Black people through its justice system. It's the same country that in the Dred Scott decision where the United States Supreme Court said Black men have no rights that white men are bound to respect. It's the same country where the Supreme Court now in the 21st century passes an anti-affirmative action ruling, which is really an anti-Black ruling to keep Black children from having access to American educational institutions and Black men and women from having access to white-dominated American business and economic institutions. So you're seeing this happen again and again and again because what it really is another manifestation, constant manifestations of white supremacy. Here's what I mean by white supremacy, and I always have to say this because it's not just about the Klan marching around. It's the belief among a good percentage of white people that at the end of the day, white people, because of the color of their skin and their God-given right in America to dominate, are the only ones who have the right to think about what the real problems are, to know what the possible solutions are, and then to decide what is and is not to be done. That's white supremacy. And we are still living with white supremacy to this day, right?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, how do Black people work their way through to live with some degree of humanity, decency, and dignity in a white supremacist system? White people have shown no inclination to let go of white supremacist domination on any level, right? On any level. And now, unfortunately, if I or Mr. Farrakhan speak about white supremacy, they'll immediately flip it and say, oh, well, you're a racist.
Yeah.
But we're not racist because we're pointing out racism. But what Black people have tried to do is integrate themselves into a white supremacist system without white people relinquishing the power that white supremacy provides them. If they were to relinquish that power, if they were to relinquish that domination and really be willing to function on equal footing, okay, integration might work. But they've shown no inclination to do that. In fact, they're doubling down as you look at legislators all across this country, including here in Kentucky, make attacks on BLM, CRT, DEI. They changed the acronyms, but these folks don't care nothing about critical race theory. You know, they don't even know what critical race theory is. They don't care anything about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's amazing in and of itself that they're against diversity. They're against equity. They're against inclusion. It's not about that. It's anti-Black. All of this stuff is really rooted in anti-Blackness. So the question is, how can we integrate a system that is riddled to its core with that poison that they don't see as poison? They see it as some type of legitimate inheritance, some medicine, right? And you can't even have a legitimate conversation with them about it.
Right.
And the more we worry about being accepted by white America and trying to build some sense of equality in that monstrosity, the less we pay attention to building our own. For we went awry, I think it wasn't that separation was bad for us. We just didn't have resources. If we had resources of our own, I think that we'd be okay. Think about education. Do you understand how many Black kids' minds are being warped at these predominantly white schools?
Exactly.
I mean, and I'm just being real about it right
Absolutely.
now. And I really do hope some white brothers and sisters are listening, because we're not even talking out of some position of hate. You know, because Black people have been really, really good about loving folks, even as they have abused us, because we have that type of relationship with the divine. You know? But they're destroying our children's minds. And what we're seeing now are Black adults, Black quote-unquote professionals, politicians who are coming out of these schools, and they're messed up. As one of my professors at Morehouse College told me, because I transferred to Morehouse from the U.S. Naval Academy, and they wouldn't take my history at Morehouse, and the chair of the history department, who's a Morehouse man himself, Alton Hornsby Jr., said, I'm not going to take your history because I know they didn't teach you nothing about yourself at the Naval Academy. He was like, look, schools like that work forever to keep our people out. Now the few of us that they let in, and here's what was heavy when he said it, and I couldn't really get it when he said it because I was too young. But he said the few of us they let in, they miseducate you so badly that you're virtually useless to our people.
Sir, yes, sir.
And that was true. So that's why you see a lot of Black politicians. You can't talk to them about no serious stuff about Black people, Black businessmen and women. You can't talk to them about nothing serious. A lot of the Black educators right now, they can't teach what they don't know, and they're not even interested in it. So my thought is, how can we rebuild Black minds? And I don't think we can do that while constantly fighting white supremacy. I think we got to separate ourselves from it as quickly and as effectively as we can.
Okay, that's right. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you know, brother Doctor, what you said about white supremacy, because I've always looked at it as a sliding scale, right? On one hand, you got the quote unquote good whites, so long as they are in control, and they can talk to you about affirmative action or whatever they can agree to you on. And then at the other end, you got the ones kill all the Negroes, you know. But I think that you're showing us, or showing our people, what white supremacy is. And I went to Morgan State, by the way, after transferring from a small white school in Nebraska, grew up in Baltimore. That's a whole nother story about how I got there.
You just like me. You were messed up, weren't you?
Brother, I was messed up. And hey, check this out. My mother had me when she was 14. And we lived with my grandmother and grandfather. I never, even though my father was in Baltimore, I really didn't have any dealings with him really until I was able to till I came in the Nation of Islam, and I was able to reconcile with him, and I learned something about his pain and all. But that's just a little personal history. But I think
that's important history, though, brother.
Yeah, but I think even with some of the shows, we are so preoccupied with this quote unquote white gaze that most of the quote unquote Black shows I can't even watch. Matter of fact, a friend of mine,
that's true.
We were watching some show, And I pointed out all the stereotypes in the show.
Yep.
She called me one day and said, I can't even watch TV no more. Because I can see exactly what you're talking about. How do we help our people get beyond this white gaze where we are preoccupied with nearness to Pharaoh? Not power, just nearness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brother, there's so many things, and we should get back together and have a whole show on black men and our fathers, and the way,
yes, sir.
this country has sought to separate us, and we've fallen for it over generations, and we have to rebuild that. Even, because there's something about your biological father, and all of us have gone around collecting fathers, those of us without fathers. I know I have. I've collected black men as my fathers, and I didn't even know what I was doing for many, many years. But this white gaze piece, I really believe that God led me into education because that's where we have to start. We have to re-educate our people. But not just in traditional ways and in traditional spaces, right? If you get a good black minister, whether he's coming out of the Christian tradition or the Muslim tradition, that's an educational space. I'm not talking about somebody who just run around hooting and hollering, right? Trying to get money for the building fund and all of that. I'm talking about somebody who's really teaching, meeting our people where they are, and integrating the divine into their lives in such a way that it's opening their minds to figure out their place in the universe, their children's place in the universe, and how their minds need to be redirected and refocused on their humanity and their divinity. In traditional spaces, K through 12 spaces, for instance, people getting all upset a few years ago about Colin Kaepernick not standing for the national anthem. If black people were educated properly, none of us might ever stand for the national anthem. It's a pro-slavery song.
That's true.
Written by a man by the name of Francis Scott Key, who was a member of an organization called the American Colonization Society. And what the American Colonization Society wanted to do, they wanted to maintain slavery and take all the free blacks who existed in America in the 1800s and deport them. Because the free blacks were a bad influence on the enslaved ones. So if you know that this song says there is no place to hide for the hireling or slave, in later verses in it, it is a pro-slavery song. So why do you expect my people to stand for it?
Right.
Here in Kentucky, they still have a state song called My Old Kentucky Home, which up until the 1980s had a line in it that said, the darkies are gay. The darkies are happy. Yes. Look it up. A song called My Old Kentucky Home. Now, do you think I'm going to stand for that? I'm not going to stand for that. But that's an educational thing, so you know the background of these songs. You know the background of these educational traditions. And we need to teach our people where we sit and what the truth is about these things, right? This is why I chose to teach in Black Studies. I always knew when I left graduate school, if I went to a white school, I was going to teach in a Black Studies department. If I went back to an HBCU, I'd teach in a political science department. Why? Because my primary mission is to educate black children. Certainly not closed to white children. If they're interested in learning, that's fine by me. But primarily, I'm trying to re-educate black children because they're always a rescue project. That's where we got to start. with some serious education. But when you understand that, brothers, how important education is, look at the history of it. If education wasn't important, and I hear all this foolishness right now, well, college ain't for everybody, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If education wasn't important, white folks wouldn't have fought so hard to keep us out the past, and our ancestors wouldn't have fought so hard to get us in. But getting in is one thing. What you're being taught once you get in is another. So I encourage all the listeners, if you have not, go back and read Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. He wrote it in the same year that my grandmother was born, 1933. And he's like, if you control the way a man thinks, then you control him. You know, so I think re-educating us, and look, be clear, this is sad, but most of our people are intellectual rescue projects because we have been miseducated so badly. But we can't look down on brothers and sisters who are in that state. All of us got some level of re-education that we need to go about. Some are farther along than others, but that's because that's what this country does. And once we know about ourselves and what's been done to us, and that's why I didn't have a relationship with my father, and you didn't have a relationship with your father, and it took you getting into a healthy space in the nation that reaffirmed you as a man and a child of God, where you could look at what had happened to your father psychologically and forgive him and move forward and embrace him. It was the same thing with me. My father saw his father kill his mother when he was 5 years old. You know, do you understand what that did to him?
Wow.
Right? He was homeless by the time he was 7 on the streets of Birmingham, Alabama. And he never really dealt with that psychological pain. And I'm talking to my father right now. My father is probably getting ready to enter hospice. And I'm talking to him every day. And he's working through, still, to this day, a lot of that pain. Because that's the situation that this country has put us in.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I answered your question, brother. I went off on an emotional tangent.
No, I think that was good. I think that was good, Doc. I think that was good because you're absolutely right. I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the teachings of coming from Minister Farrakhan. And that healed because by the time I was about 14 or 15, by the time I was about 15, I was saying to myself, I don't need no, or 16, I don't need no father. I'm old enough to be one. At least I was in my neighborhood. Right? And so, but I always had a love of black people from a child. And when I heard the minister, I was in a pretty good space for a little boy coming out the ghettos of Baltimore. I was the first person in my family to go to college out of high school and graduate. I had an aunt that got her, I'll be pleased with her, got her master's and a couple more advanced degrees after being married and in an abusive relationship. I got another aunt that did the same thing. So when I heard the minister, I had a pretty good government job for a Negro. But I was conscious enough to see, despite the quote-unquote success, and them telling me I had a great future, I could see them sending me down a long hallway. And at the end of the hallway was a door that they said was going to open, but it was going to be locked. Yeah. And so I was looking for something more, not for a career, but for my life. So I heard the minister. That allowed me to heal and affirm my manhood. And then, but Doc, is so deep, and I don't mean to get into psychoanalysis, and we probably do need to have that. We ain't got nobody in 11 o'clock hour in case you want to stay with us. I'm just saying.
I'm being fair, brothers. I mean, and look, and you bring up the minister, right? And this is an important conversation to have. Yeah. It's an important conversation for us to have openly and doing it, proudly as you talk about this white gaze and really talking about white gaze and white approval. Mm-hmm. We all know the love that Minister Farrakhan, no matter what you think of him, we know the love that he has had, for people. Right. Okay? That it is undeniable. It is undeniable the bravery that he has had to exhibit through the persecution that he has suffered, the persecution that any black man or black woman has suffered because they love black people in this country, right?
Yeah.
And there have been so many black people who have run away from the minister.
Yeah.
Because white folks said he shouldn't be, he's not the type of Negro that should be representing you. He's not the type of Negro that you should respect. He's not the type of Negro that you should follow or listen to. What happened to us that damaged us so greatly that we allow people who ain't got no concern about our well-being or the well-being of our children to choose the people that we should know, love, trust, follow?
Right.
I mean, how can we do this? And I think that Minister Farrakhan is a perfect example of that. I've had the honor of seeing him 4 or 5 times in my life. First time, I snuck out of the Naval Academy in Annapolis and went to saw him at Howard University. This was back in 1988. First time I saw him. And I was blown away. So, you know, that is so important. Think about how many brothers he has rescued. Whether you met him or listened to an old cassette tape back in the 80s. You know, that's important. Because the white gaze, that ever-present white gaze where these people are basically saying, they did the same thing with Booker T. Washington. Oh, this is the Negro that you should follow. Because he's kicking this accommodationism. You know? It's a problem. So much love to the minister, and much love to all black men and women who love black people in a country that so despises us. Because we need that. So I just had I had to say that, brother.
No, I appreciate that, brother, because you know I was and this thing of black. We're gonna really have to get into this thing about black men and fathers, because when I was able to forgive my father, I realized I could do that without betraying my mother, who was the hero of my life.
Right.
But it's so deep, brother, doctor, and brothers. I was in a meeting. I got a call. Hey, the minister wants to have coffee with you. We were at our Savior's Day convention. So I'm in the minister's suite with some other people. We're meeting. He's talking, and I'm just uncomfortable, man. I don't know what it is. So we go back. I decided I'm gonna just go to my room and sit, brother. And try to figure out what's going on. Do you know that when I finally got to the root of it, it was my feeling like if your father didn't love you, could any man really love you? Could any man that said he loved you be trusted? And I had to really deal with that. I went to another thing in Baltimore. A sister from Delta Sigma Theta, you know, they've got this program called Embody, where they support black male groups that do the mentoring. They just set up like the conference or whatever, and the black men come in and do their thing. We had like a lawyer and another brother and really successful black men, right? And like a 14-year-old got up in the audience and started, you know, talking about not having a father, how it affected him. Do you know that black grown men on that panel started crying? As they shared their pain at not having a father. You know, one, his father was absent. His mother was on drugs. And it took him like to grow to be a grown man to understand that he could not be with her because of the condition that she was in. So he was raised by his grandparents. But to get back to the subject at hand, you know, this preoccupation with white acceptance, where we don't, and it's really tokenism. I saw Stephanie Mills on the Breakfast Club a couple of weeks ago, a little clip, and she said something like she stopped going to certain parties, right, Hollywood stuff. She said because at the end of the day, they don't like you. It was almost like you an animal act. Like look at who I got here. So she said, man, she don't even go. But these are the people that are raised up, and you know, these are the people that the enemy raises, and we certainly don't want to attack them. Yeah. But at the same time, Brother Doctor, I think for us to raise the question, not about black faces in high places, but what are those black bodies in these offices? What are they doing to relieve the suffering of black people? Whoa. And if you can't do that, why are you in that office?
There you go. Now look, you just hit something else, man. Look, y'all put a candle in the window. I'm about 5.5 hours away from you. I'm about to get in my car.
Come on, man. I'll be up till 3 o'clock anyway.
I'm about to drive through the snow so I can feel this, you know, this physical love. Look, here's what happened after the revolutionary period that black folk went through in the 60s into the 70s, where you had to have these strong brothers and sisters kicking in doors of these corporate institutions, educational institutions, all of them. So these revolutionaries, these radicals, right, created space, created positions that they had to give up to have some black representation. And the idea was, if we get a few, we can get more. We just got to get in the door. The response, though, and this is key, the response of white power structures was this. They were like, okay, these Negroes are making all this noise. And as one older brother told me when I came to Louisville, he said, look, boy, Louisville is probably a half, about 25, 30 years behind Atlanta. You don't have any black power base here. And you're not going to be able to negotiate with the white people here if you're talking about creating any power base. In fact, they're not going to listen to you at all unless you scare them or you shame them. He said, now you hood enough that you can scare them here and there until they figure out you ain't got no backing. But you might be able to shame them. But what they did, they either got scared or shamed in creating some of these positions that they knew that a few black folk had to inhabit. And that's where we messed up on our side. Because the response on the other side was, we got these few positions. We got to have some Negroes in these positions. Let's choose the safest, scariest, milquetoast, go along to get along Negro that we can find to put in these positions, and we can say, hey, we're diverse. We've met our affirmative action needs. In fact, we're committed to equality. And here's Dr. Thingamajigget. Here's Junior Vice President Mojo, whoever, with some title so long that you can't even remember it. And we know the longer the title, the less the power. And so they got these very, very weak black folk into these positions, and those black folk were not concerned about opening those doors wider at all. In fact, they were and are comfortable with being Ruby Bridges. They comfortable with being the only one in the room, and they slam the doors behind them. And we still see them. Still here. In fact, they're winning the day. So when I talk about places like the University of Louisville, it's a few black people here and there, and ain't none of them gonna help you.
Wow.
Right? And that's replicated in institution after institution after institution. Y'all see it, brothers. I ain't telling you nothing that you don't know.
Right.
I'm simply talking about how it happened. And so that's a part of the educational process. If we can sit down with our people in every space, from Chicago to Louisville to Eugene, Oregon, to Jackson, Mississippi, to Baltimore, to Atlanta, and all points in between, and say, here's what you're seeing when you see a black person who's more concerned about his or her individual position than they are collective progress. They were well chosen. They're doing their job. But we cannot accept them, right? We cannot glorify them and celebrate them just because they're blackface in a high place. They're blackface in a high place who's doing damage to black people. So that's really, really important to understand how this thing has progressed. And unfortunately for us, when we talk about truth, black people like that are winning the day right now. But it doesn't mean that they always have to win the day, but they're winning the day right now. And we have to accept that truth so we can identify them, move them aside, and move our people forward.
I think we got a couple callers, but Naba'a.
Okay, let's roll with them then, man. The doctor's in the house.
All right, the doctor's in the house. Dr. Ricky L. Jones is on with us, brothers and sisters. We have, let's see here. I think we got Brother Randy. Go ahead, Brother Randy, on WVON. You with us? Go ahead and talk to us, brother.
Yes. Good evening to you all.
What's up, Randy?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. I appreciate the discussion, the level of discussion. This is wonderful. I appreciate basically the thought-provoking ideas and just the things, the information that you're sharing with the audience. And really, we need this type of discussion going on every day because of the situation that we're going through right now, at this critical juncture. And so I think it's important, that maybe, during Black History Month to have these kind of discussions. We can do it now. I'm talking about, like, even on Dr. King's birthday or on the minister's birthday. I'm talking about the different days and stuff like that. Brother Prophet Elijah Muhammad's, birthday. I think it's important, and also just the Savior's Day. I think it's important that we have these type of discussions because it's important to make sure that our people raise basically the political consciousness of our people, because there's stuff that is going on just really ridiculous. And I think just judging by what you said, it made me think of certain books that I have ran across that talks about a lot of stuff that you have covered, and that you're absolutely right. I mean, if you look at Barack Obama, for example, he is a race-neutral politician, and that the Professor Frederick Harris wrote a book dealing with Barack Obama more than 15 years ago, as well as he's a political science professor teaching at Columbia University, Dr. Frederick Harris. But the book you want to check out is also The Politics of Reconciliation, and by Paul Street, that talks about these race-neutral politics and people who are very conciliatory towards whites, and so white interests. And that there's no accident that these people, I'm talking like Barack Obama, people that ilk, have embraced the politics of deracialization. And that is what is one. That was one of the discussions that has taken place at the Black Studies Conference, where we had a forum, a plenary, talking about the politics of deracialization. And this has been an ongoing pattern and trend and stuff that I've found in the past 20, 25 years or whatever. So I think it's that I'm not going to, try to take up too much of time, but I just want to say I appreciate the discussion. I just think of the idea. What do you think about the idea of basically having a kind of a discussion about that, have forums and lectures, as well as form organizations and groups and institutions and stuff to basically kind of express some of the ideas or whatever, and kind of help shape some of the ideas and concepts that you have articulated on this particular program this evening? Because I think it's something worth looking into, and that we need to organize and stuff, because this is what is missing. There is a discussion. There's a thing about that they have an issue with Black nationalists, Pan-Africans, and people who are more militant, who are considered militant or radicals. And that the people in our society and talking about our community need to protect the warriors, because who's going to fight for you people if you allow our adversaries, our oppressors, to neutralize our warriors? So I just want to say,
Brother Randy.
Work. Yes.
Good stuff, brother. I'm glad you wrapped it up, brother. We're at the top of the hour, Brother Randy, but call back.
Sure.
And,
we'll talk.
Top of the hour.
Sure.
Yes, sir. We're at the top of the hour, Brother Naba'a.
No. Y'all go ahead.
Can you hang for another 15, 20 minutes? No, not to mention an hour. I don't know. You might have class in the morning.
Hey, brother, I'm gonna go get me some coffee, man. I stay up with y'all all night. I'm having.
Go ahead, brother BJ.
I'm having.
Good. All right.
Feeling such love.
All right, man. Oh, look. I mean, thank you, Dr. Ricky, for hanging out with us. Dr. Ricky